They're screaming, saying it's supposed to be a peaceful protest. Flashbangs are going off.
Peaceful protest! 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 Peaceful protest!
This is what's going on in California right now. They're not playing. They are not playing. Police officers are not playing.
Están en violación de la sección 409 del Código Penal. Les prohíbe permanecer presente en una reunión ilegal, lo que significa que deben abandonar el área que acabo de escribir. Si permanecen en esta área que acabo de escribir, estarán violando la sección 409 del Código Penal. Pueden irse al sur de la calle Spring. Deben dispersar inmediatamente.
I think this is going to get really, really bad based on the gathering. I think something is going to go down. I think something is going to go down. But we're here for it. Here it's going. It's moving. They're moving. Those are flashbangs.
for the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department. I hereby declare this to be an unlawful assembly, and in the name of the people of the state of California, order all those assembled on Spring Street to immediately disperse, which means to break up this assembly and to
Peaceful protest! 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 Peaceful protest!
Thank you, David.
Peaceful protest!
The sound should be working now.
Peaceful protest! 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 Peaceful Peaceful protest.
I appreciate you, David. Thanks, man.
Peaceful
Thanks. I appreciate you, man.
Peaceful protest. Peaceful protest. Peaceful protest. Peaceful protest. Peaceful protest.
I turned down
Peaceful protest.
a device and it
Peaceful
made
protest.
the sound muted, but I got it resolved.
Peaceful
Thank you, man.
protest. Peaceful protest.
And the police, nigga.
Wow.
I'm so proud of everybody right now.
I see no king. I see no king.
So how many people do you guys think is out there? 100,000 or under 100,000? I think well, just in LA, but I can tell you that I'm planning to go over to see what's going on in Washington, D.C., because I think he's doing his the birthday parade as well, which is also the military, the anniversary, or I'm going to go over there. Give me a moment. I'm going to check on that. Give me a second. So let me see something here. Let me see something here. So let me see this military parade. That's oh, no kings. The military parade is going on over in Washington, D.C. as well. So California. Let me see what's going on in Cali. More flashbangs. They're trying to get these people to disperse.
Do not run!
Fuck you! Fuck us! Fuck you! Fuck you!
They're being violent right now. They're being violent right now.
This is a peaceful protest!
Wow.
This is your flag! This is your flag!
They're yelling peaceful protest.
Peaceful protest! Peaceful protest! Peaceful protest! Peaceful protest! Fuck the police! Fuck the National Guard! Fuck them!
Well, they're working on the orders.
Don't shoot! Don't shoot!
Peaceful protest!
Don't shoot! This is a peaceful protest!
This is our right! We have the right to protest!
Start the line up on the other side!
Hey, nice mask. I like your mask. That's it hard. That's it hard, man.
Also, they're getting ready to start the military parade in Washington, D.C. So at some point, I'm going to bring that over too. So, you know, on one side of the states, United States, this is happening. And then this is on the West Coast. On the East Coast, they're going to be doing the military parade. There, to my understanding, there were people across the nation that was supposed to be doing the No Kings parade today. You know, so, you know.
Put the boom mic in my
Oh, make it fast, guys. Don't pile up. We need to get out. Yo, jump through. Better to get cut than arrested. Yo, I appreciate your help. Thank you. Right? Hell yeah. Thank you guys.
Well, I can say this, that, yeah, you know, well, your thoughts could be considered subjective, you know, Dave. So, they are out there on patrol to do a job, and although I don't like some of the things that's going on, they have a job to do, and I'm just here reporting on it, streaming it. At some point, I'm in agreement with you that some of the things that is going on, but they are doing what they're set out there to do. And they have to do their best to be safe. You know, there could be a better way to handle this, but, you know, it is a part of freedom of expression. So they're expressing themselves.
He broke his ankle.
Ooh, he broke his ankle. That's got to hurt. That's got to hurt.
Hold on to that shit. Just get the one smooth. There you go. Got you.
Went out to protest and broke his ankle. I guess probably he was trying to run from the flashbang and snapped his ankle.
Push him out of the way! Move! Move! Get out here!
That got hectic a while ago.
For real.
That got hectic.
On some big shit right now. please.
They're taking away their flags. I guess he won't be waving his flag. I guess his First Amendment right just got tossed over the fence.
Stop putting your hands on somebody.
Hey, for those of you watching, let me know if you'd like for me to do a call-in. I mean, where you guys can call in and chat with me. Put a 1 in the chat if you like for me to put the number up so you guys can call in and we can talk about what's going on. What's going on over in Washington, D.C.? Still haven't started yet. Guys, share the link, share the link. Let's get some more people on the stream.
Let our people go!
Why you don't get hit? What the fuck?
They won't. They won't.
Tranquilo, tranquilo. Cálmense, tranquilo. Ya. Oh, sí.
Do they really think they own the streets? They don't own the streets, but they don't own the streets. That's why the cops are being that way, because the cops are saying we own the streets. So, they can say it's our streets, but I just hope that no one gets hurt, because one of these cops might hear that and take it personal. I'm kind of scared for these folks. I just hope no one gets hurt. Share the stream. Let's get some more people on the live stream, so we can do a call-in show.
Don't be scared, gordito. Chill, papa, relax. Relax. I'm talking to you.
That would be great. Excuse me, guys. Let's keep it moving, please. Legal already allowed us to keep moving. Let's keep it moving, okay? Please, guys.
Officer
Our
Palacios.
voices will be heard better that way. It's a peaceful protest, but sitting in front of them is going to stop nothing.
Leave your comments in the chat.
They have allowed us to keep moving. Let's continue.
Put your comments in the chat.
Opportunity is to continue protesting in LA, okay? Let's keep it moving, guys. Our voices matter, and they are allowing us to be heard. They are allowing us to be heard if we keep it peaceful. But the moment we stop is the moment they stop hearing us. And we cannot let that happen, guys. Let's keep it moving, and let's continue to be heard. Because our voices matter. Let's continue to be heard, guys. Come on. Hey.
Yep. The cops are moving in on them. The cops are moving in on them. Put the one in the chat so I can know. I can put the number up so you guys can call in and we can talk about this. You can give your opinion, your feedback. Put a one in the chat.
It is happening now.
Law and order.
It is happening now.
Law and order.
It's happening now. What do you mean it's not going to happen? It's happening now. He's trying to
Put a one in the chat, guys. Let me know if you want me to put the number up so I can call someone, or you guys can call in and we can talk about this.
You care about your people. You want to be peaceful. You would not create a breach like this by doing like this, by doing stuff that we did not want.
We can't be fighting amongst ourselves, guys. Hey, just turn your back on it. Just turn your back on
Yeah, man. Dale, I try to be very open-minded because that's the way to have a very meaningful conversation, reciprocal. Because I may have an opinion that may vastly very different, that may vastly contrary to someone else's opinion or beliefs. But if I have a closed mind, I will not be able to have an open mind, open ears, and be able to comprehend what their thoughts are, or what their experience are, or what their emotions are. So, you know, many of us are closed-minded, but some of us have to be open-minded, and I choose to be open-minded. There's a lot going on in this world right now. You know, there's a lot going on. Yesterday I did a stream called War in the East and War in the West, based on what's going on over in the Middle East. There's the wars going on in Africa. We're having what could appear to be a civil war here. Just a lot been going on, man. Just a lot been going on, peeps. A lot. You know. So if you have thoughts and questions, you know, let's join the questioners and we can have a conversation and you can question everything. We can have a discussion. But put a 1 in the chat if you like to call in and we can talk about this.
I wish I could have a movie. It was so cool. Look at what you guys are doing, brother.
I got you, man. I got you. I got you.
Hey, get home safe.
Just enjoy the stream and put your thoughts in the comment, and you know, I'll respond to it. They're moving on the folks right now.
Please. Come on, let's go. On the fence line. You gotta move. All right, come on. Please. Get your people, huh? Yep. Get home safe. Come on. Keep on moving.
These 2 police officers seems to be kind. They're not being aggressive. Share the link, guys. Share the links. Let's get some more people in on the stream. I would like to have somebody that can join in and we can have a conversation. Put a 1 in the chat.
If everyone get home safe, I appreciate it. Excuse me, excuse me.
Let's go. Come on, guys. Come on.
Keep moving.
Explicit language. Written and said. F ICE, F Trump, F this, F that.
Shame! This is not serving your country! Shame on you!
Let's get home safe, guys. Come on. Let's get home safe. Come on. Hey, we don't want nobody to get hurt. Come on. We don't want nobody to get hurt. Come on. Please. Please.
Get in the area.
That's what.
Put a 1 in the chat, guys. Share the number if you want to call in. You know, you can call in. But put a 1 in the chat.
You should be ashamed of yourself!
Have a good night, man. Have a good night. Get home safe, please. Get home safe.
As you come on in, like, share. Give the stream a like, guys. Give the stream a like.
No one wants to be here. No one. Move.
Press that like button. Smash that like button so we can get more people on the stream.
I'm from Beaumont.
Thank you, thank you. Oh. Oh. More flashbangs. More flashbangs. People are putting on their gas masks now. It's getting hectic. It's getting hectic. The police are not having it today. How do you guys feel about what's going on? Unrest in America. Cops are not playing. The boys in blue are not playing. Put a one in the chat. Put a one in the chat. So let me know if you want to call in so we can have a conversation. Whether you have a little to say or a lot to say, let's talk. You know, put the phone number up and you guys can call in or I can call you. Let me know. I wonder if the Trump's military parade in Washington, D.C., I wonder if that's going on.
Kids are representing themselves in court, and it wasn't their decision to come here. Now they're separated from their families, and the courts aren't going to do it. So if the courts aren't even hiring, you're trying to tell them something good, which is the most important thing about this whole thing is the fucking children. All they care about is some fucking adults and not wanting to go back to the court. With this being national news and headlines, that would be the
Let me see if I can get an angle from a different place. Mr. Moon, I agree with you. I think maybe I need to go over to another channel to see if I can get a different angle.
All the way up. Let's go.
Let me look that up.
Let's go. Keep coming. Hey, let's go.
For money for all the children that are missing and to get them lawyers. I mean, where are we gonna go? Gotta go.
Keep walking. Whoa! No, keep walking.
There's a crew right behind you.
Yeah, I'm gonna look for a different see if I can get another angle.
Move up the sidewalk.
Squad that is code 6 at Arcadia.
Hey, Sarge. We got people walking behind us. Just so you know.
Go back that way. Go back.
All right, I'm going to bring another broadcaster in and get another angle. So let's do this.
Or giving emergency care, and emergency responders are exempt, but everyone else is breaking that curfew. And we just heard LAPD saying move, move, and they are continuing to move that skirmish line here on Broadway a little closer to 2nd South, and pushing that remaining crowd towards 3rd Street now. This is near the historic
All right,
Broadway
Mr.
Metro
Moon.
Station, again at the corner of
All right, O'Neill.
Broadway and 2nd. Many of the people we spoke to coming in from outside
Yeah, so we have a
areas,
different view now.
Hawthorne, Inglewood, those are just a few of the locations that I was talking to protesters earlier who said they traveled here, some on public transportation because they knew the area here in downtown was going to be gridlocked, and within hours it would be packed with a lot of streets being closed off, which is what we're seeing here. Now, as far as the force from LAPD, we see a lot of LA County Sheriff's deputies out here, not with the LAPD at the moment, but we've seen that activity as well as National Guard troops making their way through this area. And for the most part, those National Guard
Give
troops,
the stream a like, guys. Share the link. Share the link. Let's get some more people in.
And they've
Like,
also
share.
been assisting
Like and
in
share.
these ongoing raids. At least some of them, they were seen, I believe, Thursday.
Thank you, Mr. Moon.
Blocking some of the streets where one raid was happening. And as we continue to see, for the most part, police out here, I do want to show you something. Elliot Mendoza behind the camera, if he can come down here, these rubber bullets, a lot of them on the street here, these were being fired at some of the demonstrators. So I was talking to a few earlier who said they were in extreme pain because of it. Obviously, they can cause pain, these less lethal munitions. And as far as the bottles and rocks being thrown at officers, we did see a little of that. And here at this intersection, maybe about 15 minutes ago, we saw a few bottles going into the sky. We didn't see them hitting any officers, but that's definitely been a concern out here with reports that that is what these agitators have been doing. Yeah, and we're seeing more of these less lethal munitions here on the street. So The crowd appears to be following the orders. At times they go back into the street and start waving the flags, but as the skirmish lines continue to move, so does the crowd at this point. A little smaller than it was even just a short time ago, and now we've got about 50 minutes or so left before that curfew hits. But the dispersal order here in downtown LA, that's when we really saw this force of law enforcement moving in, as some of the crowd here remains downtown, being pushed again towards 3rd Street here on Broadway, Christine and Gigi.
And Mario, we're going to go to Justin O'Brien up in Sky Fox, because in addition to everything else they have to deal with in downtown Los Angeles, we understand, and this actually happened earlier in downtown, there was a street takeover, Justin?
Yes, Gigi, just to give you an idea, this is where Mario's location is. This is just southwest of the Gloria Marina Grand Park. LAPD, obviously, their skirmish lines as I'm pushing down here. This is the area where Mario is, and this is where the group is being pushed. And as you said, yes, it's becoming a street takeover. Occasionally you see a smoke light up in the street there. It's actually people spinning their wheels. So this crowd is being pushed south on Broadway, and they're certainly taking over the intersections now and turning it into almost the street takeovers that we often see in Compton at night time, Gigi.
And Justin, earlier this afternoon, even when the protest was still peaceful, as thousands of people were on the street, there was a driver in a burgundy Dodge who suddenly began doing donuts in the intersection and spin-outs, putting all of those people in danger. LAPD moved quickly. I believe he or she was detained, but those were the reports coming from the scene earlier this afternoon. So in addition to all of the chaos that we're seeing, the city is also dealing with other things. There's a Dodgers game on, which of course is great for sports fans. We have a Dodgers game, and you have this issue. And because of what's happening in downtown Los Angeles, we want to tell you there is what's called a TFR. That stands for temporary flight restriction. So we have Sky Fox right there on the perimeter of downtown Los Angeles, zooming in. The crew doing an absolutely amazing job. Justin, thank you very much. We know how difficult it is, how challenging it is, being 1,500 feet above everything and being able to report with such detail what you're seeing from Sky Fox. And there you see a long line of cars. We can see the flashing lights, and now reports of street takeovers as the protesters leave. Some of them leave, some of them get into their cars, but not leaving the immediate area. Justin?
Yeah, that's right. They're almost like they don't want to leave. And as I explained there, yeah, so Sky Fox, we're limited by a 3-mile radius around Dodger Stadium. So that's actually putting us on the above the 10 freeway between the 110 and the 60. So we're quite a way away, but the LAPD is pushing these protesters south at this stage. They've tried to push them downhill, which is the one road to the left there. And currently there seems to be the majority of people are making their way along Broadway. Slowly but surely they are. You just wonder if all these cars have to do with the protesters, or whether some of them actually may be just innocent drivers who are trying to get out of downtown, who stayed away from City Hall and worked for the day. Now they're trying to get home, but unfortunately they're caught up in this mess. So I imagine LAPD is going to continue to try to push these guys further south. Hopefully they'll jump in their cars and eventually head home. As Mario was alluding to there, we're about 45 minutes before that curfew kicks in at 8 p.m.
Well, we are watching.
Just while you're there, I just want to. I see something very interesting there, Gigi. We've got a person there with a hose, so they're hosing down the road. And I imagine that's so that people can start doing burnouts. That's to make the road a little bit more lubricated.
And, and Justin, Christine Devine has now joined us here in the studio. And I know you can't see it from your perspective because of that TFR. I do see the hose, but where are they getting a hose? Or is that, let's hope that's not a fire hydrant that has been opened.
Yeah, I would put my money on that it's a fire hydrant. The reason I say that is just the amount of water that's flushing out there, and also the height that it's coming out at. It looks like it's coming out at about 1 to 2 foot off the ground, and there's a large sort of fireworks there. So this is definitely taking over the feel of a street takeover, ladies.
Well, as you give us this picture from the air, obviously a much different picture from the ground there, where Mario Ramirez is, right there as law enforcement is moving a crowd on foot as the curfew nears. It's a reminder that this is a very big city, And I'm thinking, is that the Wiltern there? Is that Koreatown, Justin?
It's still coming up as downtown for me. I believe Koreatown will be a little bit further west. So we're looking at this is yes, this is Broadway. Broadway between 6th and 7th at the moment. And they've opened up a second fire hydrant there by the look of it as well. And that's happening between 6th and 7th. Yeah. So it's certainly a couple of very nice hotels in this area. No doubt, of course, people who live in the area are still allowed to, even though the curfew goes into effect, they're still allowed to get into their residences. And you can see these people still making their way southbound. Unclear how they'll actually get out of here eventually, whether they would get onto the metro. Maybe that's something, I think one big thing to look at here as well, all the police resources are up here. So if they were looking at to try to take any of these people into custody, they'd actually have to flood the area, both Hill Street and the street to the right here. That's Spring, I believe. I believe it's between Olive and, sorry, I apologize, Hill is the one to the left, Broadway in the center, and Spring to the right. They certainly have to come in there and try and corner them, but unfortunately I just don't think the LAPD or the sheriffs have the resources to do that.
Well, it reminds you of what a big city we have here. Even that downtown area, that 1 square mile area, has a number of streets there. And so looking at the map, you are giving us an aerial shot southwest pretty much of where Mario is by just a couple of blocks. And you can see Mario's shot where you have a lot of LAPD officers on the ground there. We know Sheriff's Department was there as well. And then we see Justin's shot from Skyfox, and you see all of the vehicles there on the road. So it does give you an example that police are not on every street. Every street is not cleared in the curfew zone there. It may take some time, but let people know, as Mario said, he got an alert on his phone that curfew will take effect in about 45 minutes. And really, the goal is to get people out of that downtown area. And anybody there,
when that curfew goes in effect,
violation. And we've seen a number of people being arrested with those zip ties and taken on those big white LAPD buses down to be booked. So again, 45 minutes to go. And people need to be reminded that they need to clear that downtown area. It is a Saturday night. And we know people have a lot of energy when you're young and passionate or an agitator, that a Saturday night could be a longer night for law enforcement. It's not a Tuesday or a Wednesday. It is a Saturday night and a full day of protests and inflamed passions and energy.
And I'm learning from officers, LAPD officers at the scene now. We've been communicating via text message when they can, and some
call coming in, guys.
Also trying to reach out. I talked about that full mobilization, Christine. The A shift, 12 hours, 6 a.m. to 6 p.m., and then the B shift, 6 p.m. to 6 a.m., and on it goes.
Hey, buddy.
No one has been relieved. We
are
at 7.
It's going okay. It's going okay.
And no officers have been relieved. On the contrary,
I
the
decided
B
to give you a call in. I mean, I know
so you have
still trying to get some more viewers on, but I just wanted to give you a little insight on what appears to be happening in LA right now, given the curfew in place and the
protesters until a group started.
Let me turn down the volume on the stream. So what's your feedback in regards to what's going on? You just said that the curfew is going. Well, they just announced that the curfew is going to go in effect 45 minutes from now. So what's your feedback?
Yeah, I would assume 8 p.m. Pacific time. Before night falls.
How do you move all these cars? That might take a minute.
What time is it there for you right now?
On the street there, you can
for me, it is 9:20, so I'm on Central Time. You're on Eastern Time, 10:20. So for me, they're just about an hour behind me and 2 hours. 2 hours behind me and 3 hours behind you.
Right. So you get to experience it. How close is it? How close is it to you?
Oh, we're across the country. I'm still Middle America, so Cali is still a ways away from me.
Man, it's just been going crazy last couple of days. right? Because I was actually working on a couple of stream talking about narcissism, and when this went in effect, I was like, hey, I'm going to just jump on this and start doing a stream about this. And the first day I did a 5-hour stream. I don't know if you saw it.
I didn't get to see it yet. I've had some things going on. We're not live yet. You haven't connected me to the live call yet, right?
Yeah, I think you should be on the live call. I'm hearing you. Hold on.
The thick of it,
Let
and
me.
Justin O'Brien,
Okay,
of
that's
course,
not a problem. Yeah.
Giving us the other perspective of people on the streets. Still.
What I'm noticing here
Yeah, you're on the live call.
A crowd of people packing
All
the
right,
street.
perfect.
You got
All
a
right, well
bunch
let's
of
get
cars.
into what's going on here in
a lot
LA
of the
right
streets
now,
can
and
be
then
one way.
we can have a follow-up call.
Looks like LAPD is
be
going
on
to
the
now
stream.
have to help
Yeah,
funnel
let me
those
turn down
cars
the
out
audio
of
on this
the
stream a
area.
little bit more,
That curfew hitting in about
just
40
slightly,
minutes.
so we can talk over it and it's not too
Skyfox,
disruptive.
is moving
Yeah,
to a
so
location where there
give
are
me your
other
perspective. Give me your
protesters. We'll bring that to
perspective.
you soon. Right now, I can
Well,
tell you
honestly,
this
I think
crowd, though, of
this was
people
bound to
has been
happen.
moved
We have been at
from City Hall,
a very
away
weird
from
place in
Grand
this
Park,
country for a
away
while,
from your government
and
buildings,
I think
and
following
pushed
this
this
most
crowd
recent
back
election,
to now where you have
no one really
a
knew
lot
what
of
would happen.
cars.
We were kind of told in very vague terms what the plan was for the country moving forward from Donald Trump, and you have two sides that are looking at it from two different viewpoints. And I think right now what we're seeing is the actions of what was promised. Now, whether it's being affected in an efficient manner, obviously that's left to be seen. No one likes change, and the overall message from the president in the beginning of the year was obviously tackling some immigration issues. But as we've seen over the last few days, the way that it's being handled and the way that law enforcement across the country have been given directives to handle it, more specifically ICE, hasn't been the way that most people thought that it would happen. So, we're looking at video footage over the last few days of people being arrested at work, people afraid to pick up their kids at school, farm workers, laborers, at a glance, and we can only make our own assumptions, but at a glance, it seems like the immigration efforts to remove anyone that has criminal violations, or at least serious criminal violations in this country that are here illegally, are not necessarily the primary focus or the target of these ICE raids. What's happened is you have regular, everyday working class citizens that are being kind of pulled into that immigration effort, and so this is the backlash and the result of poor planning, poor execution, and just, probably bad information or bad data in terms of how the whole immigration issue is being handled. And I don't think anybody in this country doesn't align with the view that, we do need to get a handle on immigration, but it depends on who you ask. This is a country and a land of immigrants. Myself, I'm an immigrant. My parents came here and migrated from tiny island of Jamaica, and as a benefactor of them being citizens, I was automatically granted a citizenship. So, there are people that come to this country for a better way of life, a better opportunity, the American dream. And then there are people that also come to this country to take advantage of the freedoms and the liberties, and they don't necessarily always take the same approach as the hardworking foreigners and immigrants that come to this country. So I do understand there's a need for a curb in immigration, but obviously we've been battling this for many, many years now, and this is definitely not the right approach. So that's my thought on the immigration side of things, and I don't know what the answer is. I don't think anyone truly knows what the answer is, because this has been an ongoing issue for as long as this country's been around. So it's going to take a collaborative effort, and as long as we are divided, which the only thing these laws and these executions of these raids are creating is just more division. And so we're never going to get to the bottom line issue of trying to figure out how we can keep our country safe collectively for everyone who's here trying to do the right thing, versus the people who are, of course, the minority, a very limited amount of people who are here taking advantage of the system, whether they're immigrants or not.
Right, and I have a couple of thoughts in regards to this. So, when Biden was in power, and they had open borders and catch and release, and just everybody was just coming in. Obviously, we see that a lot of gang members did come in because they took over apartment complexes, held people at gunpoint, assaulted young girls, leave them in the ditch unalived, and not just girls. They were doing it to boys, to trafficking them, and there was a whole lot going on, and that caused the entire society in America, the ones that actually felt away. Even myself, I was a bit incensed by what was going on, because I was like, this is not right. And then with the other agendas, as we know, those are other agendas that were being touted and pushed on us that we didn't like, and we were forced to do certain things. Now, that exasperated the entire nations that were more conservative, like people like you and I that are more conservative. But I have also another spin on it. So with all these people that were coming in, we know that, even though it's the same bird, left wing, right wing, Democrat, Republican, it's the same bird, right? But when so many people came in, they were supposed to be giving the Democrats the power, the upper hand, and things didn't fall through as planned. And now, with the advent of AI and the robots, not just the robot dogs, but the robots that they're using for construction, the robots that they're using in the stores, all of this is happening. My thoughts are they need to get rid of as many people as possible, because when the robots are really deployed and they're taking over jobs, people are going to go in a frenzy trying to find jobs, and then they're going to be robbing and stealing and pillaging and plundering, because they're going to want work, and the robots are going to be taking over the jobs. And so they need to get rid of as many people as possible as a preemptive position to make sure that they can have a handle on it when this does go in full effect, I think over the next 1, 2, 3 years, because as you know, you go inside the restaurants, robots are doing some of the jobs. Robots are stocking the shelves. Robots are making your burger in certain fast food places that you go. So that's another position I think is why they need to get rid of as many people as possible, because it's not just the ones that they said they were going to snatch up and get rid of. They're doing it to everybody.
Well, while I don't disagree wholeheartedly with your position, I think that we're, in talking about, let's just say AI for a minute, in terms of, job creation and job loss, we're more than 2 or 3 years from those technological advancements moving us forward in a direction where robots can take over human jobs, right? I think AI has its purpose, but I do think we're probably about a decade or two away from where you will see robots in mass, right? Because the technology is there, but they're very expensive to mass produce. So in mass, you're not going to have robots taking over jobs for farmers, laborers. We're just not there yet. Will we get there? Eventually, of course. It's the evolution of time, the evolution of man. We've always evolved, and we've always made things, more accessible, easier, and better. And so in due time, we will eventually get to a place where I believe that technology and the advancements we've made will, at a steady pace, start to surpass some of the jobs in the labor force. But in this particular instance, where we're talking about farmers and restaurant workers and just foreigners that come in and do the laborious tasks that not everyone in this country would like to do. The reality is you don't have a line at Chipotle during the hiring phase of people wanting to get behind that counter and become servers or cooks. Sure. You don't have a line of people at farm, at the farms out in California waiting to go out and pick strawberries, because if anybody has ever done any immense amount of labor that required any type of physical interaction, you understand it's a very, very difficult job. And so, you know, this country, yeah, it wasn't really built on that foundation. You know, we're in a democratic society where we have all this technology at our hands, and we're lucky to have it. But I think we're a ways away from there. I think to get back to the point about why we are where we are is not necessarily what the agenda may be. Short term, long, you know, but we're talking more of a long term effect. But I think in the short term, what we're seeing with what's going on in the country right now, it has nothing to do with, you know, the agenda of getting rid of people because we have to prepare for a takeover with technology and jobs. I think this is a fundamental breakdown in government policy and efficiency, where essentially President Donald Trump is trying to make good on his promises for immigration. If you remember, in his first 4 years, the first thing that he really pushed and got a lot of backlash for was the wall, right? So we spent, you know, billions upon billions of dollars on this wall, hoping that the wall would be a deterrent. And in fact, if you've looked on YouTube or you've just done a generic search, you know, people have found a way to get over that wall. And there are people that are still being transported into this country through underground tunnels. It's really about how much money you have. You know, if you're living in, let's just say Mexico, for instance, and you have the right connections, you know the right people, you know, think about what Pablo Escobar was able to do with these underground tunnels and the amount of times that he in prison. So there are underground networks. There are, you know, things on the black market where if you want to get into this country, especially from, you know, a country that's low-lying and really close to the U.S., it's not very difficult. That's just the reality of it. And no wall or anything like that is going to really stop that problem. But the reason we're here now is because of the inadequacies of government. It's about you know, what's going on the streets of LA right now, where in turn it has nothing to do with the people that are being affected by it, but it has everything to do with the policies that are in place and the people that put those policies in place. Right? Because Donald Trump right now, I think they're probably winding down on that parade, that military parade. But Donald Trump is not, he's not leading this charge. You know, he may have signed some executive orders, and you know, he may be making some calls, but ultimately he's not the enforcer. Right?
No, it's obvious. It's obvious. It's obvious based on certain elements that I've noticed that, you know, to your point, to your position, he's not the one leading the charge. Actually, what's his name? Miller. I forgot his first name. He's
correct.
The one.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, I was going to say you're correct. Miller is the one leading the charge on this entire initiative. Is he the right person for the job? Probably not. Based on the way that this has been deployed, it's clearly not the way. I recently saw an excerpt earlier this afternoon where, and I'm not sure if it was true or not, but it was on a major television network where Trump made some statements about asking ICE to, you know, kind of back down on some of the raids when it came to restaurants, hotels, and farms. Now, whether that's true or not, of course, we live in a society where information travels quickly, and it's a benefit, you know, and sometimes it's not, because we are not 100% sure if that information is true. Now, if it is true, what it does is it lends credit to what we're discussing and the fact that the president really is not in control of the overall initiative. Now, he does have a responsibility to take a look at what we can all see, and he has the ability to make the calls that he needs to be able to kind of bring this to a halt and figure out next moves, because we're talking about 2,000 plus protests that are currently going on across the entire United States, across the nation, right? We've lost 2 politicians today due to gun violence in Minnesota. And so this is going to continue to escalate unless we find some type of a resolve, or unless the president does his job, right? His job is to lead. And in order for him to lead, he's going to have to look at the totality of the circumstances that he's created by allowing these agencies to start enforcing immigration, which clearly they're not doing it in a responsible manner. And so I think that's what we're looking at now with these protests. Now let's talk about the protests for a minute, because I think we're coming up on, I think it was about 45 minutes. We're coming up on about 24 minutes or so before curfew goes into effect. And if you're watching the screen on your stream from Fox right now, there were cars doing donuts in the streets and things like that. Right. And so what we have to really think about and focus on is, and I'm speaking from a position of being a 20-year law enforcement veteran. I've been on both sides. I've been on the law enforcement side, and obviously as a citizen of this country and someone that has a family that I go home to every day, I've always made it a point where I'm not making justifications for the actions of law enforcement officers or military personnel, because they're following orders. I can tell you what's going on right now is that law enforcement is currently trying to get people off of the streets before the curfew goes into effect, because a lot of bad things happen in the dark. And so what they're looking to do is preserve life and property. There's business owners that have businesses on, out there in LA on these strips and in these neighborhoods and in these communities that are clearly being affected by the immigration status and by these, these protests. But those people don't have anything to do with what's going on with the country. And so law enforcement's sole duty is to preserve peace. And so you can express your First Amendment right if you're doing it peacefully and without violence. And as long as you're not breaking any laws that infringe upon other people's rights who may not necessarily be a part of the protest, then it's not a problem. The issue that we run into is that you do have agitators among these protesters. So 99% of the protesters are peacefully assembling and trying to protest. But you're always going to have those agitators in the group that are going to, start to create chaos, and they have their own agenda. And law enforcement does have a duty to protect even the protesters that have nothing to do with the bad actors that are there. And so the reason why, things are ramping up as we get closer to a close of tonight is because the last thing a law enforcement officer wants to do is be out there in the dark at night trying to maintain and preserve peace when you have bad actors. Because at nighttime now, under the concealment of dark, is when these bad actors, whatever their agenda is, whatever groups they belong to, that's when they're going to come out. And so even something as simple as, doing donuts in the street, what it does is it just creates a scenario where bad things can happen.
People like these are anarchists.
Exactly. And they thrive on this. And so they infringe upon the First Amendment rights of the people who truly are exercising their First Amendment rights. And unfortunately, it puts law enforcement in a very
precarious
position. It does, 100%, because you're trying now to preserve and protect not only life and property, but you have to now protect the people who did exercise their First Amendment rights to come out and peacefully protest. And there's just too many accounts and too many times where people have gone out to exercise their right, and they either get hurt, they get injured, or worse, they lose their lives because it's so controlled. And so, everybody's on high alert. Everybody's tensions and emotions are at an all-time high. And when things start to go bad, it's a domino effect. And so what law enforcement's job is right now, as I can see on camera, is to try to preserve and protect that and get as many people as they can off the street before that curfew goes into effect. Because I did the job for a very long time. I can't tell you of a time where I remember a law enforcement officer being happy to arrest someone due to their conduct or misconduct while they were exercising their First Amendment rights. It's just not something that we want to do. In law enforcement, we're human as well. We're human beings doing the job, but at the end of the day, we still do have to protect the other people that are out there trying to exercise their rights. And so it's not a pretty sight. It's not something pretty to see, but just the overall tone and the climate of what's going on sets the tone for what we likely will have to endure in this country for the next several months, unless Donald Trump steps up as president and chief of this country and actually makes a stand and say, hey, listen, I do want, to continue with my plan. for immigration, and I do want to get these bad actors off the street. But at the same time, I also want to make sure that I'm protecting the citizens of this country who have the right to assemble and protest peacefully. And that's one of the reasons why people come to this country, is because this is the home of the free. You know, this is where
land of the free, home of the brave.
You know, so it's a very tough situation. It's very sad to see that we've gotten to this point in our country. But again, this is a reaction to the actions that were taken based on a political agenda that many people didn't agree with in the first place. And rather than taking the proper procedural steps to try to find a responsible way to, to address the immigration issue that we have in this country, this is the outcome. Because we do have an immigration problem in this country, and the immigration problem doesn't stem from the people that unfortunately come to the country illegally, right? They entered into the country through illegal means, and we just say that because they didn't go through the proper channels as everyone else. But we're really focused on the bad actors, because the average American, the average American knows that it's the immigrants that come to this country that make this country a better place. It's the fabric of this country, and those are the people that take on the jobs and do the things that average Americans don't want to do. I've never seen, and I don't mean to say this in a negative way, but I've never seen a Caucasian or just an Anglo-white American out in a strawberry field picking strawberries. I've never seen a black American out in a strawberry field. It doesn't happen. It's always going to be the immigrants that come into this country, and a lot of it has nothing to do with the fact that they're immigrants, but it has everything to do with their culture. Farming is a big thing in some of these countries where these immigrants migrate from to come to the U.S. to look for work to better support their families. And unfortunately, we don't have programs in this country anymore that promote farming. If you go back 2 decades ago, New York was one of the larger states that produced a lot of our produce. A lot of the apples, the Washington apples and things like that coming out of New York, those farms were always fielded and worked by migrant workers. It was not your average American-born citizen out of New York working these farms. And so, our food supply is going to be affected. A lot of different things are going to be affected because of these immigration laws that they're not putting into effect and enforcing. And I don't think that most people understand the repercussion of that, because, like I said, I have never seen, and maybe I'm biased, I'm just going based on my experience, I've never seen anyone outside of someone of a Hispanic origin or what we call a migrant worker out in those fields doing the work. I've never seen it.
That's true. We're a nation of consumers primarily, and not laborers. We've gotten so comfortable with just being consumers and getting what we want, and being that we've gotten comfortable with just being able to go to the store and buy what we want, we don't really think about where did it come from, who picked them, who packaged them. We just say, we'll go to the store. Like, I was having a conversation with someone, and it was like, man, I need to go pick some mangoes off the tree. And I said, mango? You pick mangoes off the tree? I'm like, yes, I pick mangoes off the tree. It was like, no, you just go to the store and buy mangoes. I was like, really? You don't know that someone has to pick the mangoes off the tree? And she's like,
someone
no.
has to pick those mangoes. Someone has to pick those avocados. Someone has to pick those jalapenos. Someone has to pick those tomatoes. Someone has to pick those bananas. And we're just not at a place yet. Like I said, we're probably about 2 decades away from that, where everything is automated and a machine can go out there and do the laborious task that has traditionally been done by farm workers who just so happen to be immigrants that come into this country looking for work and a better life.
Hold on, you said 2 decades?
Yeah, it's 2 decades. It's probably going to take about 20 years or so before we get to a point where we have everything on an autonomous base where you can rely on it. Right now, we're just we're still scratching the surface.
Yeah.
With AI. Like,
hold on.
We've had technology. Think about it.
Hold on. I agree with you. We're in an infancy stage with AI. But
100%.
They're fast-pacing it right now. So that's why in this big, beautiful bill, they're making sure that the states have no control over what the deployment of AI. The federal government wants to be the only one that can say, yay or nay, I don't think it's going to take 2 decades. I think, excuse me, I think max it's going to take about 5 to 10 years, maybe half a decade to a decade, but not 2 decades, because they're fast pacing it right now. I think I was watching something on the news a few days ago. In China, they already have robots out on the beat with police officers, machine learning AI robots that's learning how to police so they can put them out there by themselves. And they're talking about this is supposed to be rolling out within the next 2-3 years, where they have a squad of robot police going out there by themselves, where they don't need any human assistance. And we already know about Optimus, which is Tesla's robot. There's another company, I think it's called, I forgot the name of it, where it's lifelike robots. I forgot the name of it, but go ahead.
You may be referring to Boston Dynamics.
No. But continue.
Okay.
Continue.
Well, what I was going to say about Boston Dynamics, right? Boston Dynamics, they've been around since 1992.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and they have made the most strides in the robotics industry than any other company in the space. Right? They're the loss leader in the space. They have made the most advancements, the most technological enhancements, and even with Boston Robotics, right? We're going back from 1992. We're in 2024 now. It's taken them over 2 decades, and they still don't have a perfected product in the robotics space, which is their niche.
But
they don't
Tesla
have a perfected product.
But Tesla has Optimus, and Optimus is far more advanced than Boston Dynamics. It moves more human-like.
Right, but moving more human-like doesn't mean that it's more efficient, right? So you can look at Tesla and the advancements they've made, and I'm not taking a knock on Tesla, because they obviously are going to be the loss leader in technology for the world as we know it currently. But when you look at a company like Boston Dynamics, who that is their primary sector that they have been in since 1992, and the advancements that they've made, I'm sure there's some bleed over from the white sheets and the white papers that Tesla has studied on the things that they've done. But even with that, there is no rapid deployment of technological advancements that are going to replace a human being within the next 3 to 5 years. We'll have prototypes, we'll have models, but in order for us to get to a space where it's perfected, I mean, think about the airplane. We're still trying to push the limits on technology with airplanes.
That's
We've
true.
been flying for a very long time. So to think that we're going to get to a space where AI, technology, and robots are going to take over and going to make a major impact in the job force, we can see it on a very minute scale. You talk about China, we're decades behind China. Right now you can go to the grocery store in China and scan your palm because you're in a registered database system that has validated and verified who you are. You don't need to take a debit card, a credit card, or a phone to tap on anything in a grocery store in China today.
Yeah.
But we're nowhere near that here in the U.S.
Yeah, and to add to that, I have a buddy that came over from China, and we were having a conversation. And he said when he visited China, and their version of Uber, right? And he wanted to get, he didn't have to pull out his phone and tap anything. He just go out, and what he said, he went out and said, I don't know how they say taxi or whatever, but he just went out, and there's like on the road, there's like a stand, and he just spoke into it, and the Uber came, and he was explaining that when he went to the rent-a-car place to rent a car, he didn't need, because he was in the database system, he didn't need to pull out any identification. As soon as he walked into the rent-a-car place, because he made his reservation online, they already had the car ready for him, and they just gave him the keys.
We heard.
Yeah, but again, it speaks volumes to the conversation. Kind of diverting away from where we are now in this country. But like I said, if you go back we're almost a decade behind China. China's first grocery store that was automated, right? Cashless, cashierless grocery stores. China launched that in 2016. You know, it's 2025. That's 9 years. They launched that 9 years ago. I'm in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and we finally just got a automated checkout grocery store, which is down in downtown Tulsa in the BOK Center, in the BOK building. And they just opened that not even a year ago. China's been doing this for almost a decade before us. So the technological advancements that we're seeing on the consumer side are just now starting to hit the U.S. Now, the one thing that I will say with the U.S. is we invest heavily into our military. And so while we may have the world's most technologically advanced military set, we just don't have that yet for the consumer side, which involves our day-to-day lives.
That's true.
You know, we've invested heavily in the military so that we can protect this country, but we haven't done the same when it comes to replacing individuals when it comes to jobs. So when you start talking about this immigration initiative that we're pushing forward, and now we can see within just a matter of months after its implementation that we're effectively now ripping families apart and taking, you know, parents from their children and vice versa because they got it wrong. You know, they're looking at criminal records and violations, but, you know, just because you got a speeding ticket or you got arrested because you got too many speeding tickets and you became a habitual traffic offender due to that, that makes you a felon. That doesn't mean you deserve to be deported from this country because you're an immigrant. You didn't break any violent laws. The whole premise of Donald Trump's approach towards this immigration initiative was violent criminal offenders, getting rid of gang members, getting rid of which I think most people agreed with for the safety and preservation of our country. But at this moment in time that we're living in right now, these immigration effects are not just affecting the initial or the intended target, it's affecting everyday Americans. And like we just said a few minutes ago, who's going to go out there and pick those oranges? Who's going to go out there and pick the strawberries? Because it wasn't the gang leaders in the from the onset. It's not those people that were out there doing these tasks and doing the work that regular everyday Americans don't want to do.
100%.
So they got it wrong.
100%.
They got it wrong, and that's the reality of it. We have to start looking at the and I don't mean to cut you off. Let me finish this one thought. We have to start looking at things from a very logical perspective, and somehow we sometimes lose sense of common sense. And common sense tells me, just looking at what is going on in this country right now, is that we got it wrong, because gang members and gang leaders are not going to be out protesting about you being deported from this country. The people that are out protesting and the people that are pissed off are the hardworking immigrant, family members of immigrant workers and immigrants and migrants themselves that are here making this country a better place. It's not the people that are here committing illicit acts. And so the government needs to go back and fix this. They have to figure it out.
100%. And what's crazy too is that they are also arresting politicians, right? Because some of the people from Congress and I think the Senate wants to go in and do oversight, and they are arresting them, throwing them down to the ground, and it just making it worse, exacerbating the whole deployment into the direction that could potentially cause a civil war. You know, because people have.
I wouldn't go as far as to say that we're at the helm of a civil war. I think that it could eventually grow into that based on public perception and the view from American citizens. But right now, the reality is we live in a country where we have lost sight of civility, right? And the people that are currently out protesting right now, majority are immigrants. They are people that came to this country that maybe obviously are legal. They did it the right way, and what they're doing is protesting for the rights of the people that are trying to do what they did, to come here and contribute to this country. So unless you have a unified effort between people that are not directly affected by this, this is going to go on for a little while. Because if you're an American citizen and you're not directly affected by this, and depending on what side of the aisle you stand on with this debate, you may not necessarily go out there to protest. And until we have a unified effort, this is going to be chaos for quite some time unless, like I said, the President of the United States, Donald Trump, steps up, makes a very curated and detailed announcement or some type of message of peace and unity, and then an initiative to try to fix this. And like I said earlier, I'm not sure if that message that I saw from one of those major television networks was true in terms of him sending out an order to have ICE, kind of pull back on the methods that they were using, going to hotels and restaurants and farms and these people's places of work, because they're clearly not getting it right. You're not going to be arresting anybody at a hotel or a restaurant or even a farm that's a farm worker by day and a drug dealer by night. It just doesn't make sense.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense.
So those are some things that we got to fix. Those are things that we've got to look at, and we've got to take a unified approach. It all starts with the people that we've put in positions of power on Capitol Hill.
True, because
people have to listen to,
Yeah, let me jump in with that thought. Stephen Miller is the name of the guy, right? And I was watching, I think it was TYT, the Young Turks, the other day, and they were doing a deep dive into his background and spoke to some of the people that he used to go to school with. And they're saying that he is a bit of a racist, right? They're saying that he used to mock. This is what I'm not saying that. I'm just saying what I heard, that he used to mock some of his classmates, right, because of where they're from. And now that he got the opportunity to head up a division, and the division that he's heading up, he's now sort of retaliating because they didn't let him get away with what he wanted to get away with when he was in school. And as a lot of us know, that sometimes some of these police officers that become bad actors in the police department make it bad for the good police officers. And a lot of the times these are people that were bullied in school, so now they go out and they now bully people in society. So they're saying that potentially he is one of those type of individuals, and he's just retaliating. Not my words, I'm just regurgitating as best as I can based on what was said out in public already.
Well, and the thing about Stephen Miller is that if you know anything about his background, Stephen Miller grew up in a very conservative, home in a very, I'm sorry, not conservative, but a very liberal Jewish household in California, which is where a lot of this is taking place right now.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of like the epicenter of the immigration battle. Now, again, I can't speak on whether, what his views are and his character, whether he's racist or he's just prejudiced. That remains to be seen. In his mind, he may be following an initiative and just doing his job. But nonetheless, the only thing that we can point back to is that he may not be the right fit for this role. He may not be the right fit for this position. As we all know, when Donald Trump came into office, he picked his cabinet and chose the people around him based on the opposition that he was facing. So anyone that appeased to him and gave him some level of credibility were the people that he leaned on heavily. Mm-hmm. So was Stephen Miller the right choice for his current role with the Deputy Chief of Staff for Homeland Security? Again, right now, this moment in time would dictate for us to say probably not. But we don't know. The thing is that we really don't know. We know that Donald Trump is clearly not in control of this initiative, but we also don't know what directives Stephen Miller has been given. And in the short time frame, we're talking from January to June. So in the 5 months that all of this has taken place, with putting cabinet members in place and putting the right, deputy chiefs and all these people in different positions for this current administration, I'm not really sure that the president had enough time to properly vet these individuals other than the credentials that they had on paper. And as long as they were giving him the yes man treatment, those are the people that he put in place because he was trying to avoid any type of pushback from the people that he put in office. Because we've also seen a few people that he elected turn on him. You know, most recently Elon Musk. Elon Musk pretty much has done a full 360 and turned on Donald Trump. So there's a lot of things that are happening in the background that we can't see, that we are not privy to the information. And so, you know, I have to reserve my thoughts until, you know, it all comes out, really what's going on in the background. But we can't lose sight of the fact that clearly this initiative is not working. It's creating a hostile situation currently in California and soon to spread across the country. I'm starting to see some protests that are likely to take place in Florida. A lot of Cuban migrants are not happy with the promises that the president made, and these immigration policies are now starting to affect them. And I'm sure that's going to be the case across the country, especially in the most densely populated areas, that is a melting pot of immigrants who actually voted for Donald Trump and now realizing that what he says versus what's happening is two different stories. And so it's going to be a very interesting remainder of the year and a very interesting remainder of this of his presidency. You know, we're in for a long ride, and people are going to have to really be grounded. And at some point, I do believe that in order for us to overcome this as a country, we're going to have to find a way to unite. You know, I'm not a big advocate of watching the news primarily, but even on Fox News, you know, I've tuned in from time to time, and I've even noticed on Fox News that the way that they are reporting a lot of the things that are happening, they're not necessarily changing their tune, but they're changing their tone. And so that's a very big indication that even the people that supported Donald Trump getting into this office are starting to look at some of the things that he's doing or the initiative that he's put forward, and they're looking at it from a perspective with a much wider lens than they did by just trying to get him into office. And unfortunately, all he's doing is appeasing to his base.
True.
Everything that we're seeing right now is everything that Donald Trump said he would do. We just didn't know how it would have been implemented, and this current situation with the immigration status of these ICE raids and everything else to try to curb immigration is a prime example of all of these things. And so we're going to have to see this not just from this standpoint. We're going to have to endure this for a lot of the things that we were dealing in this country. You know, economically, if you go back and you look over the last 4 or 5 weeks, even the market suffered from announcements that Donald Trump made with the tariffs. And I'm not necessarily against tariffs. You know, I do believe that tariffs are necessary. I do believe that we have had prior administrations that have not looked at it from the same perspective as Donald Trump, being a businessman first. And I do think eventually, if we're able to do tariffs in a responsible way, it will level the playing field for America in terms of the tariffs that we pay on goods that are coming in and out of this country. But again, so far, his reputation is taking a dive, and they're doing a very good job of preserving his reputation, in my opinion, with the House Speaker and everybody else around him that controls his media access, because I do believe that his rating is a lot lower than what we currently know. You know, the numbers that we're seeing about his approval rating, I don't believe those numbers are accurate. I think that his public information officers and his Joint Chief of Staff and the people that he have around him currently have done a good job of downplaying how Americans truly feel about him. His base is always going to be his base, and so we can't really rely on those numbers, but there are a large number of people in this country, including African Americans, who voted for Donald Trump based on the plan that he had laid out. And unfortunately, up to this point, even though it's very early in his presidency, we're starting to see a lot of things unravel, and the way that he probably initially imagined things would go, they're not necessarily going in that direction right now.
Yeah, there's a lot of civil unrest, man. Too much civil unrest, and it's scary to see what's going on. You know, the other day when I was doing the show, the stream, I was a bit nervous. As a matter of fact, let me tell you something. Yesterday, I did a stream about what's going on overseas in the Middle East, right? And it was about 1 hour and 45 minutes. And I listened to the entire stream right after all the audio was there. Did you know that they muted a lot of what I was saying? So it's just almost the beginning, parts of the middle, and the end. The other stuff I was saying in there, they muted it. Right? So, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, no, obviously that's a part of some censorship and probably some guidelines by YouTube, because we are now also dealing with some censorship issues in this country that people are not aware of. You know, a lot of content creators are basically reporting your experience with your most recent stream, because you know, a lot of things change when you don't pay attention to those little check marks that you check off on, whether it's YouTube or any of the platforms that we utilize, and we think that we have free speech. The reality is you really don't. You don't have free speech when it comes to a platform that is privately owned and operated. And so I think censorship is going to play a big role into us moving away from a more democratic society, because the reality of it is that your voice can be heard, but only the things that they want people to hear. And so that's something else that's going to take place in this country over the next few years, that you're going to realize that you have a voice, but you can only say as much as the powers that be want to be out there, and that's going to be a form of control, because we do have, like I said, an issue in this country with division and with uncensored content, and with the advent of AI, which is why it's so dangerous. There's a lot of people out there that can't discern the difference or differentiate the difference between what's real and what's not. And so in order to control propaganda, you're going to realize that a lot of these streaming services, a lot of these platforms that allow you to speak freely, they're going to start putting some safeguards in place to prevent liability on their part by allowing you to say every and anything that you want to say in a free manner. And that's the reality of the society that we're pushing towards and moving towards. You know, in 20 years, I'm not really sure what that looks like, but I can guarantee you with how what a pace, like we talked about earlier, with AI and technology is moving, I can foresee that a lot of the things that we've been able to see are going to be censored, because we're at a place now, if you look around the world, there are a lot of places in the world where, or a lot of countries in the world where censorship is very heavy. We can go back to China. You know, we have very different versions of the tools that we utilize, that we share. You know, whether it's Instagram or Facebook, when you look at the guidelines and the rules in different countries, there's a lot of censorship that takes place, whereas in the U.S. it's a free-for-all. And I think that's going to change, because if you're fluent on some of these channels, whether it's X or Facebook or even Instagram, we're now moving into a phase, I know this doesn't apply to the topic, but when you go onto some of these social media platforms now, it's a porn site. There's free porn pretty much on all these sites because of the lack of censorship. And so all these things are going to combine and compile into a situation where there's going to have to be gatekeepers. There's going to have to be some censorship for the preservation of this country, for the rights that we uphold for our children and for their future. Because right now, as I can see it, looking at a lot of these platforms that are readily accessible with no age restrictions and no age limits, which is why TikTok was on the chopping block a few months ago, we're going to move it more progressively into a direction where a lot of the content that we utilize our right to free speech on, it's going to be censored. And so that's something that we need to gear up for as one of the many changes that are going to be happening in this country moving forward. So we're in a very, like I said, a very weird period of time in this country, and no one likes change. But change sometimes is necessary if applied in a responsible manner.
True.
And unfortunately, we're just going to have to see what that looks like, especially in a democratic society where everybody feels like their free rights and their civil liberties cannot be infringed upon when there are rules.
Let me jump in. I have two things to say to your last point. We're not a democracy. We're a constitutional republic. That's what a lot of people seem to misconstrued. They say we operate like a democracy, but we're not a democracy. We're a constitutional republic, meaning that we elect the people, put them in power, and then they direct the way the country is supposed to operate. And then we have to follow, right? Well, it's supposed to be that we elect them, put them in power and they work for us, but that's not how it is. So that's why we're a constitutional republic. And another point that you made, that you said that in terms of censorship, states are actually putting laws on the book that make sure that these platforms are putting certain guidelines in place, like age restriction. Like for instance in Florida, it was put in place that a child can't have a social media account under the age of 15 years old, I believe, right? So if they have it under the age of 15, then the parents have to be the arbiter of that account. So other states are followed that same suit and make sure that they're putting certain things in place. And to another point you made, I think we're in a serious correction, because back when the Democrats were in power, a lot of the platforms were given directives to make sure that they do ultra censoring. So that's why places like Twitter and Facebook and YouTube, they were curving a lot of the things and shutting down accounts, just wiping them out after content creator spend years working on millions of subscribers and just gone overnight because they say the slightest thing. So there's been a bit of an overcorrection. So that's why you're seeing so much explicit content online right now. But I do agree with you, that is going to change. And lastly, to my point, I don't know if you know about the conversation that Benjamin Franklin had with Elizabeth Willin Powell back when they constructed the Constitution. I don't know if you know about that. You know anything about that?
No, I'm not familiar with that subject matter.
I'm gonna read it to you, right? So Franklin and Elizabeth Willin Powell, after the constitutional conversation, Powell asked Franklin, "Well, doctor, what have we got? A republic or a monarchy?" To which he responded, "We have a republic if we can keep it." Right? So that goes to the point now of why you see that these protests are going on, the No Kings protests. That's what that has a reflection on, because of what Benjamin Franklin said to the Powells, right? So,
okay,
and that clarifies the point I made with that we're not a democracy, we're a constitutional republic, and you can look more into that, right? But man,
I appreciate that. I appreciate that point of view. You know, as someone living in this country, I do think that, especially with my time in law enforcement, one of the things I realize is that most Americans don't even know their constitutional rights. Most Americans don't know the first 10 amendments. And so we have to get to a place and a point in this country where everyone is not only engaged, but everyone is an active participant in making this country better. And unfortunately, the reality of it is that we're not currently living in a society where we are all aligned with the same goals and the same visions. We say the same things, that, you know, this country is what dreams are made of, and everybody comes here for this American dream. But unfortunately, we're no longer aligned with the Constitution's original intent, because there are so many different groups with different agendas that are trying to make their point and have their voice heard, that, like I said, we've lost the perception of civility to human beings. Right. So we've lost sight of that. It's very clear. You know, I remember I was in high school when the Columbine Domestic Terrorist Act took place. And it was such a very shocking thing. While it changed the way that we operate in schools and for the safety of kids in school, I remember having to do drills after that took place. We're now at a point in society where we are completely desensitized. And that's why it goes back to why I said there's going to have to be more censorship, which is going to feel like it's taking away some of our liberties. And the reason is because we're very desensitized. You know, we lead the world globally in mass shootings.
Yes, and in high schools,
Well, but I remember a time where if there was one high school shooting, it was on the
shocking.
news for 30 days, right? There was a shock value to it. When we moved from high school to middle school to even elementary school, going back to Sandy Hook, and it went from a shock value where we would be talking about it for months until we got down to the bottom of it, to now there may be a school shooting, somewhere in the U.S. and it's not even aired nationally because we become desensitized, and that goes back to our loss of civility. We're no longer a society of civilized individuals that care about our fellow Americans. The only time in this country we've ever been truly united was, September 11th, 2001.
Right.
When 9/11 happened, this country was as unified as it's ever been in my lifetime. I remember it, like it was yesterday. I remember where I was. I remember it clear as day. And I also remember where there was kind of like a them versus us mentality, so much so that Muslim Americans in this country suffered gravely for it. But then there was also, within that same period, where regular everyday Americans who, were friends with Muslim Americans or even family by marriage with Muslim Americans that were standing up, and they were uniting as well, because we understood that the threat was foreign. But unfortunately, we now live in a society where most of our threats of terrorism, most of these acts are domestic. So again, it just goes back to the point that we have so many different issues and so many things going on, and everybody has a viewpoint, everybody has an opinion, and there's nothing wrong with that. Everyone should have an opinion. But what we've lost sight of is that it's okay for someone to have an opinion that is not the same opinion as yours.
Yeah, if it's contrary,
correct.
It's a problem.
That's what makes us different. If everyone agreed on the same thing, we wouldn't have the country that we live in today. So we've got a lot of things that we've got to deal with in this country. I'm going to go back now. I'm looking at this, in California, I think it's about 15 or 16 minutes past 8 or a little bit past that. So curfew is currently in effect. I'm still watching the stream that you had up earlier. I see people moving. It looks like they're moving at their own accord right now.
Right.
And hopefully they're able to end the night there in a civil manner where they feel like their voices have been heard by their ability to express and exercise their First Amendment rights. And I hope that's the case, because if it doesn't turn out that way tonight, moving forward, I think this is going to pour over into something even more, even more atrocious. And we're going to start seeing the loss of life. We're going to put, military personnel and law enforcement personnel who are really just out there trying to do their jobs and trying to adhere to the directives that they've been given. And once we lose sight of that, and we get to a place where we're at civil unrest, God help this country.
Yeah, even down here, yesterday there was a press conference where DeSantis and the chief of police said that if they do the parade and the protest and they block people's car, people have the rights to just run them over and nothing will come of it. If the people and the protesters spit at the police, they're going to beat them up and take them to the hospital and then take them to jail. Anything happen, they're going to do harm to the people. So they were talking. They were saying some things like no filter. The police were like, we are going to F you up if you do anything other than just having a peaceful protest and say, hey, we don't like this to happen. I'm just throwing that out there, but that's not exactly.
Yeah, I know you're paraphrasing.
Right. So the police are telling everybody down here in Florida, like, hey, if you do anything other than a quiet protest, we are going to mess you up. And if you hit one of the police officers, they're going to call the family and tell them whether they can pick. He said that they're going to kill you graveyard dead, and call the family and tell them where they can pick up your remains.
protest that was.
Yeah, I don't mean to cut you off. I saw that. I saw that press conference, and that's just yet another example of a deputy sheriff. I don't remember if that was in Brevard County.
Brevard County.
It was in one of the, it may have been Brevard County. One of those deputy chiefs or sheriffs in one of the more conservative counties. And again, that's the wrong message to send. But I understand the sense of urgency and the heightened sense of the need to try to be proactive in sending a clear message as to what the tolerance will be for for bad behavior.
Right.
Unfortunately, that message gets misconstrued, and the way that the message is delivered is the reason for that. I don't think that individual particularly should be in his position. I think that everyone has someone that they have to answer to, and specifically in Brevard County, I'm sure they have county commissioners or a governing body that needs to really reevaluate those types of statements, because again, those statements are really not necessary. I understand the heightened sense of again, the state of what's going on, but you can't fight fire with fire, and so everyone doesn't have the ability to deliver the message in a way to unite people, and that was a classic case of that. I don't believe and hold all of the law enforcement professionals in Brevard County to the standard that he set, but I look at that more as someone looking to make a name for themselves, much like Grady Judd, and put themselves in the public spotlight given the situation at hand. And unfortunately, you're always going to have opportunists, no matter the profession, no matter the job description, and that was a classic case of that. So I hope it doesn't get to that place, but just given the tone of that message, again, I think that was brought on by President Donald Trump's, statements a few weeks back about his preservation of law enforcement. And I think this particular sheriff took it a step further than it needed to be. And I think wholeheartedly he will pay for those statements. We might not see it unfold in the public eye, but just like we're having this conversation, I'm pretty sure there are city leaders and county leaders that took offense to those statements, and I'm sure and I hope that they handle that situation the way they should, because we don't need leaders out there commanding an entire law enforcement committee or community
with that mindset.
With his mindset. So again, it's just one of those things that we have to deal with in society, where we have to keep our leaders accountable. We have to hold them accountable, and hopefully they do that down in Brevard. So
I have something to add to that point. Sometimes I do understand why they were being preemptive, right? But even in that message, they don't understand, and there are some people they're not scared of death, and they will push the envelope. And if the police decide to pull the gun and kill somebody in the crowd or whatever, I think at that point things will escalate, and there are a lot more civilians than law enforcement. And even though law enforcement may have the guns and they have protective measures in place, certain people, we're in a nation where, let's face it, there are more guns in this nation than people. And some people have 2, 3 of them. And if something like that went down, it might set a precedent, and that will be in turmoil in this country. And going back to my point, civil unrest, tensions, civil war. And I don't want that to happen, and I pray, to the creators that does not happen. But if it does, wow, we're in.
Well,
go ahead.
No, well, I'm on the same sentiment as you. I would pray and hope that we don't get to that point. Like I said, I think tensions are just high right now. The one thing about this country is that the U.S. has always been resilient, and we've always been able to overcome, a lot of things that a lot of other countries typically just go directly into that type of mode of it's war and it's just civil unrest. I think we have, even though we've lost a sense of civility, I think we do have enough civil people in this country in leadership roles that would prevent it from getting to that place, and that's the hope. I pray and hope that we have more people that utilize common sense, logic, and the powers that have been bestowed upon them to make the right decisions to prevent things like that from happening and getting out of hand. But I do know, again, just going back to holding people accountable, this is we're at a crucial point in this country, in a crucial time where, just being the president of this country is no longer a title. You are now going to have to put on your best face moving forward to help this country move through this and navigate through this in a responsible manner that doesn't disrupt everyday life for everyone. Like I said, what we're witnessing right now with the protest is really not a unified effort as Americans. It's a unified effort with migrants and immigrants in this country and the families of those individuals that are currently being affected by the immigration laws and the statuses. So hopefully it doesn't get to a place where now individuals like myself and you become involved or so heavily involved in these disputes that it spills over into that. But you're 100% right. It has the ability to get there, but we've always been able to overcome these things as a country, and hopefully, President Donald Trump finds a way, even though his delivery is not always the best, hopefully he finds a way to, continue to stay on task with his initiative, make some adjustments, identify some inefficiencies, and do the right thing. And right now, that just remains to be unseen. So we've like I said, we've got a little road ahead of us. I appreciate you for having me on. I'm always, always ready to jump on and have a conversation with you and the audience to share my viewpoint, just given my background, my experiences in the different areas that I've been, I've been able to be a part of in my short life on this planet. But I'm always available to share my point of view. Always, here for the show. And if you ever need me, I'm available. Just give me a call, because as you know me personally, I have a perspective on a wide array of subject matter topics. So
yeah, I just jump over to another broadcaster, because they have the curfews out, and they're saying it's unlawful assembly now. So they're trying to get these people out of the center of downtown. But to the point, before you say anything, to the point that you just made, you know what I want, where I want you, I prefer for you to be.
Absolutely. And I think there'll be some collaborative effort between us moving forward in the future. Back to those protesters really quickly. I hope that they have some leadership within those groups that can advise them that although they have the First Amendment right to protest, you cannot violate that curfew. And so this is where now all the turmoil starts. The turmoil starts when you have emotions and aggression who no longer want to abide by the rules and participating in exercising their First Amendment rights, and now they're breaking the laws and they're breaking rules, and people are going to go out and protest. I encourage them to do it in a responsible manner, follow the rules, exercise your rights, have your voice heard, but don't create a situation for yourself where you end up in jail or injured or worse because of an emotional attachment to something that you feel dearly and greatly about, because there's always tomorrow. There's another protest that will take place tomorrow, and probably for the remainder of this situation until we have an outcome that's suitable for the people that are most affected. So that's my last thought on the protest.
Thank you, man.
I understand what they're going through, and I hope we can get to a point in this country where we can overcome these things, and all the initiatives on the table are more accurately responded to, and we can continue to make this country the great place that we love it to be. We can all live here harmoniously together, and we can all still achieve that dream of the American dream, you know?
Yes, sir. You know, thank you for calling in, man. I appreciate you.
Sheriff Luna, right now
And see, I'd love for you to jump on the next one. I'm going to see if anybody else wants to call in, right? Put the number back up.
Conan is always a person who's
Let's
covered
see if
so
anybody else
many
wants to call in.
important
Thank you.
stories. He's
We'll
always
talk
got great
again.
stories.
Touch bases with you.
I'll stay tuned and I'll be available.
All right, cool.
Today. What are we witnessing?
All right, did you give it a like the stream?
I did. I gave. Of course I did. Of course there was a like and a share.
I appreciate you.
Keep up the good work. Keep up the good fight. And one day when we're on here with thousands of viewers, it'll all pay off.
At the same time, simultaneously, you know. I would love to have like 1,000 to 3,000 people on, but I need my wingman with me, you know, and he's not here, but he knows who he is. I'm not gonna call any name. I'm just gonna say he knows it. Maybe you can pass the word on.
This past week,
I'll pass the word on. You're doing a great job. I love watching the podcast. I love the streams. I love the point of views, and I love the subject matters that you tackle that a lot of people are not necessarily willing to put their face and their name to. So I love it. I appreciate it. And I think, like I said, eventually more like-minded people who understand your objective in order to bring true, uncensored clarity and conversations to the table that sometimes are uncomfortable but necessary.
Imagine if we had AMP.
Interested in being proactive now.
All right, buddy. I'll let you carry on. If anybody else has a thought that they want to put on and they're ready to talk.
All right, take care. Thank you, man.
So there's a possibility that they, in erring on the side of caution, they actually were more aggressive.
All right, let me turn this up.
A lot of people were concerned about that Jacob Soboroff was talking about. A lot of people ended up on downtown that had never been downtown for this. This is the first time they've been protesting about their concerns over the immigration raids and President Donald Trump's administration. And so they may be surprised at this aggressive nature that they saw from the Sheriff's Department and maybe from LAPD. But there have been all sorts of problems there over the past week, including looting at 9 stores on Broadway, one of the streets there at 2nd Street, as well as the destruction of property, attacks on police. So that's all part of this, too. You can't take this day. Unfortunately, you should be able to take it in isolation, but based on what police have been going through, you start to get the feeling that they've run out of patience and they want to clear the street before the before the curfew hits. 2 other points. This curfew is killing downtown. If you're a restaurant owner, you're in Grand Central Market, people are not coming into your establishment, and you're closed at night. The people I talked to from downtown say it is a real problem. They've been through a lot, and they didn't anticipate this, and so that's, you know, they've been asking for, from what I understand, instead of 8 o'clock, maybe 9 or 10 o'clock on a Saturday, so people can have a meal and then leave, but apparently not. And then the other concern is from the city looking at the response from LAPD and the county looking at the sheriff's office, because there will be lawsuits from this. And remember, one of the reasons why you had $1 billion shortfall in the city's budget is because of the tremendous amount of payout in litigation over LAPD actions. So there has been an effort by the police department to train their personnel, their frontline personnel, into crowd control techniques that allow them to take the verbal abuse, and you don't hear a lot of that, but if you were there, you're going to hear a lot of really awful verbal abuse at officers from the protesters. They can't do anything about that. They shouldn't do anything about that. They just have to take it hour after hour. But also, they have to deal with the public in such a way that it is constitutionally authorized, that they are allowed, they're not impeding invading on their First Amendment rights, and that they are, whatever force they're using is proportional to what they are experiencing. And anything outside of that will end up resulting in litigation. And that is a big concern for the city because of the amount of money that gets paid out in some of this litigation. And that's one of the concerns they had with the police chief earlier this week. Members of the city council talking to Jim McDonald about whether or not his officers are trained properly because they don't want to see more of these lawsuits. So those are some of the things that are taking place downtown Los Angeles. I wasn't there today when they started the flashbangs. Jacob Soboroff was. He saw it. It's not a surprise that a lot of people were upset with the response. They thought it was again out of proportion and was simply not called for. But at the same time, this does not happen in a vacuum. This has been building up for a week, and I can tell just from where I sit here that there's a good possibility that some of the directives downtown are, listen, we need to end this and we need to get people out now, and so we'd rather be aggressive early and have the advantage than try to be aggressive later and not have any advantage if indeed things start to go south. That's just a possibility.
Yeah, that curfew, according to officials, Conan, has been extremely effective at keeping some of the violence out. I think the LAPD said earlier that they haven't seen a burglary in the last 4 nights of this curfew being in effect. But to your point, Conan, even before the curfew takes effect, downtown is a ghost town, except for today when there were those ongoing demonstrations that were planned for the past week or so. Day in, day out, the restaurants are empty even when they are open, even before curfew takes effect. And they were already hurting given the circumstances of the economy. Conan, this may be an impossible question for you as we take a live look here at downtown LA, but I asked Jacob about President Trump toning down some of the raids that we've been seeing in the fields and the hotels and the restaurants, even in the churches, right? Maybe going after what he initially said was the worst of the worst, which I don't think anybody on any side wouldn't mind seeing. Nobody wants to see murderers or rapists or what have you in the streets. But do you think that President Trump now indicating, hey, we don't want to see some of these raids, that this may finally tone down some of the temperature here?
I think so. The only part I would, Jacob was talking about this, about the farm fields of Ventura County and the raids through there. I'm not exactly sure if that resonates with President Trump. What does resonate with the president is when farm state senators in the Midwest, in Indiana, in Iowa, in Ohio, start coming to him and saying, whereas I don't know if there have been ICE raids in any of those areas. I've heard some of there have been a few. More importantly, though, farmers are complaining their employees are not showing up. They're afraid to show up because they think what they're seeing in California is coming next. So the farm community, which is fundamental to the industrial, to the agricultural and economic base of the Midwest and of battleground states that went for Donald Trump and have voted for him, those senators are going to the White House saying, this has got to stop. I'm getting nothing but complaints from the Farm Bureau, as well as many people of my constituents who are saying there's crops that are not being picked, and they're going to go under their farms if something doesn't happen. I think that resonated with the president. And one other thing. Mr. Trump has shown in the past that he is sensitive to public opinion. And so NBC News, by the way, tomorrow morning on Meet the Press, will have a new NBC News poll out. And we've seen other polls most recently, YouGov, Quinnipiac, that indicate he is taking a hit on the issue of immigration, which is a bit of a shocker to him, because whereas he's been doing well, he hasn't been doing, I should say, well on the economy. People are upset with the tariffs. When it came to immigration, he was above 50% routinely. And I think largely because of what you said, people had in their mind that he was going after the worst of the worst. But now they see families being broken up. They see employees not being able to work in fundamental industries such as agriculture and hospitality, and his numbers are going down. And so I think if the White House says he sees that he's starting to go well well below 50% on the handling of immigration, that's a red alert for them. That was the one good issue for them. And that, I think, maybe why the president said what he said just the other day about how, listen, and by the way, Jonathan, he echoed what Democrats have been saying. He echoed what immigration rights people have been saying. He said, well, you have people who've been here for decades and they've been working and they're good employees and they have these relationships with their employers. They're like family members. Why would we kick them out if they don't have their, then he stopped saying immigration papers, but it's the question. It should have been asked to the Department of Homeland Security. If everybody's a criminal who came across the border illegally, then why is the president giving an excuse to criminals who work in the farm fields? I'd like to see somebody ask her that question.
I would like to too, Conan, and it also refutes the notion and this argument that we often see on the right that immigrants, undocumented immigrants especially, take jobs from hardworking Americans, when even in my own reporting, I've spoken with farmers numerously over the years who tell me they've tried to hire Americans. I've seen reporting from others as well. It doesn't happen. Americans do not.
They don't want the jobs. They don't want the jobs. We have gotten accustomed to just being consumers, fingernails clean. We groom ourselves. We want to dress and just go out and have a good time, buy things, smell good, purse, cars, clothes. That's what we're used to, right? Eating in fancy restaurants while somebody's on the farm picking the fruits and vegetables. We just want to consume. They don't want the jobs. And again, I mentioned in a previous stream that the farmers hired the employment agency, and in the request that they put out for the criteria is they're going to pay $11 an hour. 1, you're going to work 7 days a week. 2, and you're going to work 8 to 10 hours a day. 3, and when people saw that, they was like, we're not even trying to see or hear or even smell that. Don't even talk to us about that. We don't want to hear it. You're not paying us a fair wage. You want to pay that kind of wage, you need to get those immigrants back. So that's what's happening, right? We don't want those kind of jobs. $10 an hour, $11 an hour, to be in the sun for 8 to 10 hours for 7 days a week. No, they're not doing it. No one is doing that. At least no one that I know.
And that was our Conan Nolan, recorded earlier during the protests when we were covering it. Right now, we're standing by. We're expected to hear from LA Mayor Karen Bass any moment now to get her perspective on what happened today. In these protests, which we've been saying all day long were mostly peaceful, went off as expected. I'd like to hear her perspective on this. And then we were hoping nothing would happen. But then around 4 o'clock, we saw those bottles and rocks, we understand, were thrown at police.
We want to reiterate to our viewers constantly that the protests have been majority peaceful protests across Southern California. There were dozens today, especially the one in downtown LA, where the LAPD estimates there were as many as 30,000 people. Though towards the end of those ongoing protests, there were several people who broke out from the main crowd. According to the LAPD, got on top of a footbridge there on Temple at some point and began throwing things like bottles at officers, and that's when things escalated into that situation. But officials have reiterated throughout the week the protests have remained peaceful. They're really out to get these agitators, as they call them, to get them to go home. That's why they've issued the curfew that's been in effect now for 43 minutes, the 4th or 5th night in a row now. Not something that officials take lightly in doing and issuing a curfew of that nature. And that's something we'll talk to Mayor Bass about in just a moment, as we understand we are setting up the shot to talk to her as we speak. But yeah, today mostly everything has gone off without a hitch.
That's right. We did have some officers injured. We heard from the LAPD and the Sheriff's Department. There were some injuries. Also, a police horse was injured. injured in all of this. And we heard from LAPD Chief McDonald just moments ago exclusively spoke with Robert Kovacic, and he said, you know, we hate to see this. We want to put our best face forward, and we did for most of the day, so it's really upsetting that, you know, at the very end we had this happen. And, you know, these are the images that you're going to see tomorrow. This is what, you know, is going to be the story, is that this broke out when we actually heard from a lot of people who went down to protest today, who brought their children, they brought their dogs, they were out there with their signs, there was dancing, they, you know, they tried to make it joyful, but also say how they felt right now, which is their right.
Absolutely. And the LAPD, you know, just to reiterate that, they said at least 7 officers were injured, but that none of them needed to be hospitalized. That is a bit of good news there. And that the unfortunate thing was that those agitators were a small fraction of the larger message today. But as to your point, they can often take away from the message, something that Mayor Bass, Governor Newsom, and other local and state leaders have talked about and reiterated. They don't want to see this kind of thing happen at the end of these protests. That only takes away from the larger message that protesters are trying to convey. And I understand right now we finally have LA Mayor Karen Bass joining us now. Mayor, are you with us?
I am. I can hear you fine.
Well, thank you for taking out, you know, another day, some time out of your day. It's been an eventful day, no doubt. We saw mostly peaceful protests once again, Mayor Bass, right there in downtown LA, right outside City Hall. And then unfortunately, towards the end, around 4 o'clock, we saw a very small faction of people move over and start throwing things at officers. Just give us your general take on how today went and how things are going right now in downtown.
Well, I so appreciate how you describe it. I think that it's exactly right. I mean, today was overwhelmingly successful. Tens of thousands of people out protesting. I was in the helicopter with our police chief, and I went to all 15 locations to look at the level of protest, what was going on, and everybody was very, very peaceful. And as you described, the downtown protest with tens of thousands of people on it was also peaceful. And then in the end, you have those few people who cause issues. I think that the police department, though, was able to bring it under control quickly. And it's not just LAPD, it's also sheriffs, it's other departments that participated as well. And we are hopeful, we're only 45 minutes into the curfew. We are hopeful that we will be able to get people off the streets and at home, back in their neighborhoods ASAP.
Are you pleased with how the curfew is working? We've been watching the last few nights. We watched tonight. It does seem like it makes a difference. I know it hurts the businesses downtown. Just wondering, what's your take on it now that we're a week in?
Well, let me just tell you, the businesses were very, very supportive of the curfew. And we've made it clear that if people are going to and from restaurants, to and from cultural or social activities downtown, downtown is not off limits. It's off limits if you're there to cause problems. And our police department can distinguish. So the businesses were very supportive of this. They were concerned about what was happening. But you are correct. It is getting better every day. Last night, we had 19 people arrested. At the beginning of the week, it was around 100. And the people that are arrested now are not arrested for violence or vandalism. They're arrested for unlawful assembly and curfew violation. Now, I certainly expect if there are problems tonight, given the nature of the protests today, there might be more, but I'm hoping that it's not for vandalism or violence. And I'm also hoping that people will view this as a successful day and go home.
Mm-hmm. Mayor Bass, you know, a lot of this started a week ago following the ongoing federal immigration enforcement, the raids that we saw in the city of Los Angeles and really across LA County and now several counties here in Southern California. Those are ongoing. Then you have the military parade, which sparked this No Kings protest, but we also saw a lot of the immigration talk today. Where do you think we go from here? I mean, we see a week of protests following those raids. Then we have today's thing. Now what?
Well, you know, I mean, that is an excellent question. And I think part of the challenge that we're dealing with here is the absolute uncertainty because we have no idea what the administration is going to do. Here's what I do know, though. If the raids stop, Los Angeles will go back to normal because that is where we were the day before the raids. But with this administration that is very unpredictable, we really don't know. So what I am hoping for in the next week is that some level of communication will open up. Right now, everybody is functioning by rumors. There were all these sightings of the Marines over here and the National Guard over there. It was wonderful that I had an opportunity to get this perspective of being in the helicopter. And I can tell you, I saw no Marines anywhere, and we went all over the city.
That's very interesting, but it's also mind-boggling to me that you don't have any answers, that you don't have any communication. It just seems so, it doesn't seem like normal operations.
Well, it is anything but normal. It is not normal for the federal government to come in and seize power away from the governor in regard to the National Guard, in terms of taking the Guard over, federalizing it, and sending them to LA when they were not needed. We have a great relationship with the governor. If we needed the Guard, we would have called for it, and he would have given them to us. I have no doubt about that. The other reason why it's strange is because we were working so well with the administration on the wildfires, and the expediting, of bringing in the Army Corps of Engineers and really increasing the numbers so that we could get the debris removed, was a very great partnership. And then out of nowhere, this happens. No notice, no warning. We just wake up one day and see there's raids happening around our city. And there were raids that took place today as well.
And Mayor Bass, I think you'd find a lot of people, even if they are on the pro-immigrant side, who would say, yes, please get out anyone who's murdering people, who are raping people. My goodness, these violent criminals that the administration claims they only want to target. But we saw raids of day laborers at Home Depots, people in church parking lots being taken. We've seen elementary school students deported. And now you hear the president saying, well, maybe we shouldn't go after farm workers, or maybe we shouldn't go after hospitality workers. He's looking at it potentially from an economic point of view. He's hearing it from the business owners saying, hey, we're going to lose our employees. But do you think that that's what needs to happen here? Because that's actually what caused so much of the anxiety, and then that's what led to so much of the protests. Or, hey, these are innocent people. Maybe they're here undocumented, but they're contributing to our society, and you're grabbing them off the street and deporting them without due process.
Well, and you are also going after people who are here illegally. So people showing up for their annual immigration appointment, who have papers, who are here legally, they're being detained when they show up. It's hard for me to understand how nannies fall into the category of very violent people, or like you said, day laborers. So the randomness of what they're doing, hanging out near a elementary school graduation so parents don't want to show up to their kids' graduation. I mean, that is just, it's hateful in a way. Why would you do that? How does that fall in the category of keeping us safe? And so, yes, I think that is correct. But again, we never have any idea where this is going to happen. And so what that does is create a feeling of fear all around the community. And, in part, I agree with you in terms of the agricultural workers, which are not in Los Angeles, and also the hospitality workers. But he is not looking at it economically, because those are two industries. We have a number of sectors of our economy in Los Angeles that cannot function without immigrant labor. Take, for example, the construction industry. And so I think he needs to understand that if he is going to continue doing this, he is going to have a devastating effect on the economy of Los Angeles. And remember, the economy of California, we are the 4th largest economy on earth. Why would you want to damage that? When we are successful, the entire country is successful.
And finally, we know you have to go, but we all know people who are undocumented. Maybe they are family members, friends. We know them, maybe multiple people. What's your message to them tonight?
My message to them is that we are going to do everything to keep them safe. We want people to know what their rights are, and we want them to know where there are resources that they can access so that they can stay safe. You have situations now where people don't want to go to the grocery store because they're afraid to leave the house. Well, we need to gather together and make sure that those individuals have access to food. This is just really horrific to our city with no real clear present danger.
Los Angeles Mayor Karen Bass, thank you as always for your time.
Thank you.
Right, we're going to continue our coverage of today's protest, and we will see you. We'll be back here. If anything is warranted, we'll come back, but we'll see you on the NBC4 News at 11.
Wow, it's a lot. It's a lot. Well, guys, lots going on. Been here for a while, and
thank you.
It's been a day, right? I started the stream much later than I wanted to start it because my little one needed some counseling, and I needed to be there for her. So with that being said, guys, I appreciate you. Thank you for watching. I'll be here again tomorrow to do a follow-up. And as I like to say in closing, remember, question everything, because if you don't, you may fall for anything. Think and say, have a good day.